name is Ruth Zaporah, and right now we're in an upstairs little empty studio at a place called Earthdance. It's in Western Massachusetts, and it's a retreat center for dance-oriented trainings, I think.
Yeah,
I really don't know what goes on here. And that's what I'm doing here, and students have met me here, and we're doing 5 or 6 days of I'm sharing the practice of action theater, which is the name of the work that I do, which is an improvisational form. And it combines movement and vocalization and language in order to follow the mysteries of an improvisation and create mysteries of an improvisation. So a lot of the training addresses necessities of this practice. One is getting the mind quiet enough so that, as I like to say to students, so the fairies can descend. But it means where the mind is, where the thoughts are not working to create the improvisation, but are open to receive whatever information comes along. Where that information comes from is one of the mysteries.
Yep.
And then some of the training is about developing a skillful mechanism, so that when a fairy arrives in the room, it's expressed in the clearest, most powerful, most illuminating way. So we develop physical skills, vocal skills, and skills of speech. Other parts of the training address how to proceed through improvisation, how to proceed through a day. How do I know what to do next? It answers those kinds of questions. So the book is open. This book is open. Okay. Now, how do I specifically relate to the audience? That's a different thing. Who is the audience in my world? And there's so many different ways of it. The feeling is that there's a sort of a life force in the room besides me. And I'm in communication with this life force, but my content is not about the life force. The content is whatever the content is. Okay. How do I direct myself to the audience? That was part of your question, really.
Yeah. Do you not? Is there any?
With this living, breathing part of the room, that affects how I space, how I direct, all that kind of stuff. Contact with an individual in the audience, which I don't do normally. I can't remember when I've done that last. But that's a possibility. Some people like to do that. Or I'm sort of, since I'm not making direct contact, then there's kind of this general wash that I'm engaging in, which is like when you're out here and I'm saying talk to us. I'm not saying talk to me. I'm saying talk to us. So there's an usness out there. I mean, time is a fiction that we create because it's useful. I don't think nature knows that there's a thing called time. But in training, it's very useful because if a person is hearing the rhythmic patterns, which doesn't, and by rhythmic patterns, I don't mean da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I just mean even me talking to you has, the way I'm using speech right now, has rhythmic pattern to it. So if a student can train their mind to be engaged in rhythmic patterning, that's one way to quiet the mind. And so then there's no other exterior thinking, planning, worrying. There's something more fascinating and more enticing and arousing going on, which is the rhythmic pattern of how one moment follows another, follows another, follows another, follows another. So timing is big. And also, all the tools that we use, how we are in space, how we shape either the body or the speech, how we respond to dynamic flows of things. So everything isn't just always the same.
So there's lots of, these are the tools though, this is not what it's about. Now, there are a lot of dance forms where that is the content, where these aspects of form are the content. But in this practice, these aspects of form are the tools with which we paint our actions.
Yeah.
So we got to we hone our skills a lot so that we've got a lot of possibilities. PSL until the 50 minutes hour's over, and God, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm never doing another improvisation until the next one. Because maybe the next one I'll be able to walk off and say, oh, that's who I am. Okay, but by I don't mean the limitation of this. I just mean that's who the universal I is at that moment. I mean, I hate this language. I hate even talking about it because as soon as I say it, it's immediately wrong. Free enough space so that any of that is going to become accessible to you. That, okay? So there's that, and there's also staying close to home in that what is it about this world that I'm finding myself in right now that's engaging? Rather than talking about, peanut butter and bananas. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That all is part of training. I mean, eventually, all the things that we do in training aren't really applicable in the moment of free improvisation. What these training devices do, one is to deconstruct something and then see, using certain tools, how to reconstruct something. So all of that does is it breaks neural patterns, these embedded patternings in our brain that we've been from years of conditions conditioning have just gotten more and more permanent. So what we're doing is sort of rerouting possibilities, and so I think that what we end up with is a much more complex system, and it seems like the improvisers that I know that have been spending a lot of time like this are very aware, alert, imaginative. I mean, they've got a lot of things going. They just don't have, they're not limited to the skill of how high they can raise their leg.
Yeah.
Or how broad they can say their O's. There are loads of skills that these people have. Not only for dancers, it's for theater people as well. It's when I used to in the early days of this practice, there would be lawyers that came along, all different kinds of people, because the work at that time was not as disciplined or challenging. Now it's very disciplined and challenging, and so only people who really are lusting after these explosive kinds of skills want to do these trainings now. Okay, everybody's walking in the same pulse. Sometimes following somebody, sometimes going with somebody. See if this pulse can stay constant no matter how you almost bump into somebody or whatever. Eyes are active. Join them. So that you're collaborating, you're part of it. Sometimes walk in space, in place, sometimes walk in travel. See the whole room all the time. See how what you're doing
what's going on. Not just a tangential idea. Not an agreement with just one person, but an agreement to the whole collective. In place or in travel. So the whole collective is an agreement. And how you're going to define the space together. Lessons from the time I was 3 years old all the way up through college, and then started teaching modern dance at a ballet academy in Baltimore, Maryland, and but I was always pressing against the boundaries of things and always not wanting to do anything like anybody else was doing it. My dance teacher, traditionally in those days in dance class, you started at the back, and as you got better and better, you'd get more. Finally, your goal was to get on that front line. So as soon as I'd get on the line next to the front line, I'd quit and go to another teacher. So I did not want to look like that teacher. I did not want to look like what she wanted me to look like. As you can imagine, my parents had troubles with me, but so I've always been, and then when I was 17 years old, my father gave me autobiography of a yogi to read, and I think he gave me that because I was asking questions all the time, and I think he got exhausted, so he said, go in a corner and read this book. So Eastern practices has always been a companion of my life, and I think between the Eastern practices and exploring the body world, I think that's what's influenced. I've never had any teachers as far as this work is concerned. I've collaborated with a lot of people who have had skills that I want. I've collaborated with, in the 70s, I collaborated with Grotowski people. I've collaborated with opera singers. I've collaborated with jazz singers, with musicians, with writers. So